Okay, good evening. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Carrabelle City Commission. It's Thursday, October 4th, 2018, 6 p.m. We're at the Carrabelle City Municipal Complex. I will ask Commissioner Cal Allen to please say the prayer, and then we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, and so all please stand now.
Our God and Father in heaven, we're so grateful that we can come before you tonight and talk about the things that pertain to this wonderful city we are privileged to live in. We ask for wisdom and understanding that we might do that which would be most appropriate and best for all of our citizens. We pray, Father, for our country too, and the divisive nature that we are facing with now, that we might come to a unity and be able to continue with this great nation as it was intended to be. We ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, good evening. Welcome, everyone. I just want to make one mention that we, on our agenda, they had a little bit of a misprint. Some of you may have an agenda that doesn't have item 7 under the new business, but we do have an item 7, and that regards to Ms. Paula Cuddy. So we'll move forward now with the consent agenda regarding the September 6th meeting, September 13th tentative budget hearing, and September 24th final budget hearing and attorney's reports.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Millender, a second by Commissioner Walden. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Then that motion carries. Then we'll move forward to public comment, and I know we have one presentation by Park Ranger Christian Ebersol, and she's got something here that we may want to pose for a picture with.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Thank you so much for allowing me to come out and present this important grant to your community. Like the Mayor said, I'm Kristen Ebersol, I'm the Park Ranger at Walden Point State Park. And just a little background, the Department of Environmental Protection is proud to administer a program called the Florida Recreation Development Assistance Program. The program is a competitive grant program that funds the acquisition or development of lands for public outdoor recreational use. And this year we're very proud that we were able to invest in recreational projects throughout Florida and in your community. Today I have the honor of presenting your community with Florida Recreation Development Assistance Program grant check for $50,000. And it is for the Tillie Miller Park Phase 1 project. My understanding is that the funds are going to go to pay for playground equipment, tennis courts, fencing, grant writing and administration, and a property survey, among other things. So congratulations on the grant award. I look forward to seeing the progress.
Okay, we thank you very much. Picture here while Park Ranger Ebersol presents.
What's that, $10,000 piece?
Yes. And this is something that Commissioner Walden wanted. Tillie Miller is near and near to his heart. To his heart.
For kids. Get the short guys in the middle.
Okay, great. Oh, we're looking at Keisha now. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Ladies. All right, then we'll move on into commissioners' reports, and Commissioner Allen.
Nothing at this time.
Okay, and Commissioner Mathis.
I have nothing.
Okay. Commissioner Walden?
No.
All right, Commissioner Millender?
Pass.
Okay. Of course, I've got something to report, but I just want to say that our September 20th FDOT Aviation Grant Program Management Workshop here at City Hall had good public turnout. 5 local airports were represented, and we had the District 3 FDOT grant managers were here, Avcon and Kimberly Corn engineering consultants and elected officials. Most of the commissioners were attended, and staff from Carrabelle and Franklin County. And the FDOT Aviation Development Administrator and Development Manager helped provide some information for us to have a better understanding of the statutory responsibilities of airport owners, the guiding policies, planning processes, grant assurances, and grant agreement requirements. And they also had a period for Q&A, and our city attorney attended, and Ms. Courtney attended as well. I want to advise the commissioners, and they're aware of this, that because of the location of the administrative offices, how they're situated right now, the finance clerk is carrying the lion's share of the water and sewer clerk duties at this time. And it's just because she can see the folks coming in right away. And as a result, her full-time duties as finance clerk are falling behind, and that will continue until a new water and sewer clerk is placed and trained. So as the days go by, this is going to become more noticeable, and the finance clerk's duties must be kept up to date and completed in a timely manner. So you may see her enjoying lunch at the collections window and just, try to help out where you can. And after I've reviewed this with Ms. Courtney and Ms. Miranda, I anticipate there will be overtime for Ms. Miranda, possibly an hour or 2 daily, or a full weekend day, maybe every week. And I'm suggesting that overtime will be funded by the Water and Sewer Department. So is there any comment on that? Okay. And then speaking of overtime, we had our Water and Sewer Department meeting on Tuesday. And going forward, the written work order assignments involving all Water and Sewer Department overtime will be made available by the finance clerk for all commissioners to review on payday when paychecks are signed. And the work order assignments will reflect the immediate week prior and coincide with the paychecks. But for the most part, these written work orders have always been available for review. Commissioners merely needed to make the request. And then in September, I've had several communications with Mr. Vinnie Bowes. He's the new owner of the Sonala property on Marine Street. I had one phone conversation with him and several emails, and he's placed a few no trespassing signs around the property. He says he doesn't want trespassers and vagrants on the property. During our one phone conversation, he said he intends to install a 4-foot-high fencing along the front to stop trespassers from approaching from the street and unwanted users of the dock from gaining street access across the property. He says he wants to remove the sunken boats, clean up and restore the docks, and then clean out the building and put a roof on it in that order. I suggested that he contact the chief for proper placement of no trespassing signs so the police department can help enforce. I've learned from the chief, no trespassing signs have to be placed in certain locations or they're not legal to be enforceable. I asked Mr. Bowes to go ahead and see if he can get the household garbage removed out of it. That site's being used as a dump, and would he board up the windows on the street side to help secure the property. I advised him that the entire property is a health hazard, dangerous, and an attractive nuisance, and that it needs to be secured from public access as soon as possible. And he took that very well. He said he wants to hire one contractor to do all the work, and that he was having a difficult time locating a qualified contractor, and that it was going to be a very expensive cleanup. I gave him the contact numbers for the chief, the sheriff department, FWC, 3 local contractors, 2 local dock builders, and Mark Currington for assistance with locating a contractor to remove the boats. On September the 18th, he reported that he had contacted all the contractors who said they were busy at this time, but they will provide him with quotes and lead times. So he says he wants to clean up the ugly property, but it's going to take time and cost a lot of money. So that's the report from Mr. Sonola. Then today, Tim Center of Capital Area Community Action Agency called me. We talked about all of the items that are stored here for the East Point fire victims, and he confirmed that they are taking over the ESF 15 functions of Franklin's Promise, and he plans to visit the donation site here next week. His goal is to try to get everything moved out and off the property as soon as possible. His goal is for 30 days. And Courtney and I will work with him in any way, and Ms. Pam Burnell, to help them accomplish their task. And that's my report, and I thank you very much. And then we'll move on to the city administrator's report. City attorney? Well, we can do the city attorney. He's next on the agenda.
Just quickly, 3 items I was asked to just update on is you have before you today the resolution for adoption of administrative fees to issue building permits. It'll be on, that's only 1 reading on a resolution, so that'll be, we can certainly discuss that as well. I reviewed the cell tower lease, made comments on it, very broad ones, and sent that back to Ms. Bodie with Unity, and she has received them. She sent me back 1 comment, but obviously what I'm going to do is I'll gather all this together and I'll forward it to Courtney so she can pass it around. The overall, call it the general gist of my comments, was simply to shorten the term of the lease. It was also to shorten the term of the option to a 5-year option. If they don't exercise it within 5 years, then it simply terminates. Obviously, if they move into a lease scenario within that option period for the first 5 years, then they would pay X amount of dollars per month for whatever the lease period that we would approve is, but that we would not want to tie up our property for 90 years in any sort of option format, which is very low income format, as opposed to the lease. But that's the gist of the comments, and there was a lot of stuff that would apply only to private parties that I just deleted and cut out. And finally, I know it's on the agenda for later as well, but the collection matter as to the airport. The suit was filed, as we talked about, for the demand letter on September 20th. It was served on September 25th. There's then a response date of October 15th to the defendant, and I will of course update you in the November meeting and provide you a copy of the response, if any, that's filed, as well as defenses. We've received 2 letters, one from the defendant and one from Mr. Nobles, that have been circulating, just kind of laying out potential positions that may be taken by those parties. But it's still very premature. No lawyer has been hired on the other side yet. But it'll slowly unfold in county court. And once there is a point where we can try and achieve resolution, whether it's in court or through negotiation, I'll of course bring that to you. And that's it.
Do you all have any questions for Mr. Hartman? Mr. Hartman, I would ask that you report briefly that we met with Mr. Denton and Mr. Morris, Melton Morris, I believe he said.
Yeah,
Matthew Morris, Little Custom Homes Carrabelle, Courtney and I met.
Yeah, Little Custom Homes is back on the scene, kind of interested, and we had a good meeting with them as to, they hired an attorney, they have there's a partner now, you have Mr. Denton and Mr. Morris, and they're still interested in the property, and the appointed group that was appointed by the commission before to kind of negotiate with them We're going to re-provide documents to them and get that negotiation going again, so that by the next meeting, ideally, there's a proposal for consideration by the commission to lease what it sounds like would be the balance of the open space in there. They're not interested in the offices, but they are interested in the obviously the 7,000 that Martin's Marine has. We told them that's where that stands. They would take the balance of the, again, the open space in the property, is what they're talking about. But we still have to reach at least terms with a little negotiating group, but then the commission would have the final say on it.
And how does this work with the boat storage?
No interference. They're just going to cohabitate there with them.
Cohabitate.
Yeah, cohabitate. They didn't see one bit. They didn't think it would be a problem.
I got you.
And that's boat repair that's going on out there.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was South Carolina.
Yeah, and he was reminded that this commission has asked for them to have all their paperwork in order and with the background follow-ups and that type of thing before they come. Yeah, and to have that paperwork for us in advance to review. Okay. All right then. Thank you, Mr. Hartman. We appreciate that, and then we'll move on to the city administrator.
Last month, I had reported to you that we were waiting on a quote on a new phone system for the new city hall. And I got that quote in, and glad to say it's a lot less than we thought it was gonna be. And the quote came in at $6,323.35. The new security system installation at the new city hall is being completed now. The wiring should be done today, we're still waiting on the cameras to come in. We've also been looking at the time clocks. And we reported a couple months back that we looked at time clocks that didn't have a monthly access fee. But when we got to looking into those, all of them that had the real-time reports, they all have a monthly fee. It's about $25 a month. Now, the ones we're looking at, Miranda really likes the company that we're with, and they offer the time clocks that has all the features that we want, but they're a little bit more money. They're about $700 a piece versus $350 a piece. But we only need 3 of them, so we're looking at about $2,100, but with a monthly fee of $25.
Let me ask them if they'd like to go ahead with y'all to move forward with that. Would you all like for that? You want to make a motion on it and move forward with those time clocks?
Make a motion to move forward.
Well, we got 2 motions.
Well, I'll second it.
Okay, all right, we have that motion by Commissioner Mathis, second by Commissioner, yeah, they're all seconded too, they all want the time clock. And that's Commissioner Walden for the second, and is there any discussion? Any discussion? Okay, so that's time clocks from the same company that you're using now with a monthly service to access it in real time.
Yes.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And then that motion carries. Okay.
I've ordered the survey of the water and sewer property on Highway 98 that we discussed at our last meeting with Mr. Sykes. They have not completed the survey at this time. On September the 11th, Russell and I met with FDOT and discussed the drainage issue on Highway 98 and 5th Street. And he's prepared a task order for that, but he'll go more into detail under his report. We will be hiring a new water and sewer clerk. The advertisement went in the paper last week. It will be advertised again this week's paper. They have until the 12th to turn in their applications. Charlie and I will be doing the interviews. We'll rank them, and then we'll recommend to the city commission. So with that being said, we have a special meeting on the 25th of October for HR issues. So I'm going to ask that we amend the agenda to include discussion and possible action regarding the hiring of a water sewer billing clerk, and also discussion and possible action regarding completion of probation pay increase for a current water and sewer employee.
Okay, so that's 2 agenda items you have.
That would be 2 agenda items to add to the special meeting.
All right. So Ms. Courtney needs action on that.
Courtney, repeat the one on the water and sewer.
Discussion and possible action regarding completion of probation pay increase for current water sewer employee. There's an employee that Mr. Painter He's completed his probation period, and Mr. Painter's asking for him an increase.
He's asking for, and he's completed the evaluation. Mr. Painter completed the evaluation. This employee never received a probation pay increase. He's been on board for 5 years. And this is his first evaluation as well. And he ranked above average across the board. So, and it's 50 cent, suggested a 50 cent an hour pay increase.
I mean, this is probably not the place for discussion about evaluation forms, which is something the HR committee is supposed to be working on. I know that I don't know that there are some floating around, but I don't know what they are, but well, I guess we'll take what we have right now. So, but I'll make a motion that we amend the agenda for the special meeting to consider those items as requested by the administrator.
Okay, so we have that motion by Mr. Commotion.
I'll second.
That's it.
Okay.
Motion.
By Commissioner Millender, second by Commissioner Allen. Is there any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And then that motion carries.
I have one other item.
Okay.
I'm asking that we have a joint PNC City Commission meeting on the 18th of October at 1:30. And that is, Mr. Fitchett will be here for that. He's here tonight also.
We could address that under his item.
And we can do that.
If we want to, and let him talk to us about what we'll be doing at that workshop. If that's okay.
Sure.
Do y'all have questions for Ms. Courtney or suggestions? Okay. I do. First I want to say, I contacted Warden Duval about 2 weeks ago regarding the inmate workshop doing cabinetry refinishing for us, and I have not yet heard back from him. I've got his secretary, his administrative assistant, information to contact, and I think I'll just follow up with her. We're going to be getting a new water and sewer billing clerk, and that's the person that's most responsible for collections and management of our water and sewer revenues and accounts. And I would like to request an operational account audit of the water and sewer accounts. I don't know if we've ever had that done. It's a detailed evaluation of past procedures used for collections and testing of the water and sewer accounts. It goes, an operational audit goes beyond the usual financial audit that we have that just analyzes the general accepted accounting principles and best practices are used. And it will assure that the new employee is starting out with a clean slate. I would like to request that, or at least request that staff contact a couple of accountants and see what they might charge to do an operational audit of water and sewer accounts. Any comments, or anyone would like to make a motion on that? Okay, all we can do is bring it to the commission. Okay, then, I would like to say that the city needs to begin accepting credit cards for payments. And the payments for water and sewer bills, permitting fees, business licenses, purchase of cemetery lots, payment of rental fees, and these types of transactions are convenient and they're generally preferred by the public. If they require a fee, the customer can be told that they will be charged the fee if they want that convenience. We can also possibly consider where the customers can pay online with their credit card. And I would like to see us offering this service by the first of the year. Is there any comment on that?
We've already been in touch with companies, and we're supposed to be, Miranda's got a call in, they're gonna come and do a demo with us because we're gonna try and use MuniCode that does our code of ordinances, and they do it free of charge for governments.
Okay, very good.
So,
Will you report to us on that? All right. I would also, I'm requesting, and I'm not gonna ask for a motion on this because this is just regular good general accounting practices, that going forward, all invoices for all equipment purchases, large or small, for every department should have a VIN number, which would be a large purchase, or a serial number on the small equipment that's purchased. That needs to be recorded on the invoice, with the purchase date, price, the description of the equipment, and a photo if possible. And no equipment should be paid for without this identification number recorded on the invoice or purchase order. And that goes for all large and small equipment. And if the equipment becomes beyond repair, it needs to be noted on an inventory list with the identification number and date. So, can y'all handle that? Thank you very much.
Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to comment on that.
Okay.
Had some communication for quite a few months now with the city, with the court. Carry that step a little bit further. We need, I feel like the city needs a firm and accurate inventory list of all city purchases. Not a pencil and not a patent paper, but equipment. Things that are of value. We can decide what that may be. I mean, there's certain definitions we can set on those. Lifespans, age, cost, there's many different ways to do it. But create and establish and hold firm that inventory, which should be monitored and kept up to date and checked on a frequent basis.
I agree. Any other comment on that? Okay. All right, then, we'll move on to city clerk's report. Ms. Keisha?
I have nothing.
Okay. We do have that set to October 25th, a special meeting.
Courtney covered that.
Okay, all right. Then it's time for our staff reports, or we're still in our staff reports, and Mr. Russell Large and Millender.
Thank you. Of course, our Avenue V project is ongoing, and we continue to monitor efforts on that, various efforts. I will tell you that the environmental document has been approved for the portion of the project from 5th Street to 3rd Street, so that has been approved, pending return of an email from Patrick Howard at DEO. That will be ready for the CRA board to consider extending the project limits to do that. All right, City Hall construction is proceeding on schedule. We anticipate the contractor to provide a notice of substantial completion within this month. It may bleed into November, but within about 30 days. Our FDOT project at Keogh's Addition, we did encounter some poor soil conditions there. There's peat material, muck, former wetlands that was filled over. So it's not a good idea to build a roadway on top of that. So we looked at various ways to correct that. What we settled on is the use of geosynthetic fabric, which lays on top of it as a reinforced fabric. One way to correct that is to excavate the material and backfill it with select material, which is very expensive and time consuming. Since there's houses located adjacent to this roadway that need access, we find that the geosynthetic material is the best option there, and it's certainly a lot cheaper. We've coordinated that with DOT, they're aware of what we're doing. We've submitted those plans for final approval for them. So we would anticipate receiving that approval and be ready to let for bids in November. And I think we can complete that process for construction to begin in January. Okay, on our lighthouse project, we're continuing our design of the low pressure sewer system there. We did receive some good news, which I'll share with you from the Water Management District. Currently, we're working on the phase 1 project. The Water Management District has indicated in their draft report that phase 2 is on the list to be considered for approval. So that's good news for Carrabelle. We'll continue to monitor that process. Okay, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Avenue B, the water line is complete, the moving of the water lines, is that complete?
The tie-ins are complete. The removal of the line, I don't think they've pulled it out of the ground yet, but I know the tie-ins at the intersections are complete. But that is resolved and they're moving ahead.
Okay. And on the Keogh addition, the road paving or the road surfacing, did they actually, well, it really doesn't matter, you're gonna recommend the fabric. Do you have an idea on additional cost it will be for that?
Yes, it's in the neighborhood, and this is an estimate that we developed. It's in the neighborhood of $26,000, maybe $30,000. We did approach the Department of Transportation with our estimate. They're aware of it. They advised us that they would like for the city to proceed with the bidding and see how the bid prices come in, and they'll make a determination at that point on funding. Yes.
Good. Thank you.
Right.
So will you give us more of a report on the 5th Street?
Yes, sir, thank you. At 5th and A, this is across from Sanders Park. The DOT contacted the city, and apparently there's a lot of sediment material that's running off down the hill on 5th, and that sediment is reaching the road right away. There's been a complaint made to the department, so the department approached the city about mitigating that sediment material. You may have noticed a recent project in Lanark where a ditch was constructed and riprap was installed, right? For those ditch blocks. That's an idea that we had to help mitigate the sediment there. Now that would be a maintenance issue. So periodically the city would need to go in and remove sediment from those sediment tracks. But that's the project that we're pursuing.
And you did the scope of work, and you have a task order for us now.
Yes.
But I'm going to recommend that we don't sign, we cannot take on a task order yet until we got the bidding, that we know what is going on with Keogh's Landing, because we'll be using log money to pay that, and until we know what is going on with that, we won't know. Log money will also have to pay, local option gasoline tax money will have to pay for this 5th Street mitigation as well. So we need to know what we'll have left over after we fund the Keogh's Landing project.
I see.
Y'all,
Yes,
got it?
where you go.
Okay.
Yes.
So, yeah, as soon as that happens, hopefully you're talking about, bids in November, so we award in December, latest in January, so, hopefully we can move forward on Avenue B and get that dirt situation.
That was part of my question about the additional cost on the Keogh
Yeah.
phase.
That helps. And then I was out there one day when we had some really, really good rain. I took pictures, but it just doesn't tell the story. So sometime when we have time between now and whenever, I want to meet with you out there and show you where the water's coming off of the Highway 98. It's completely missing their baffle box. I do have some pictures, but I can show you
The one that's behind the sidewalk.
It's right on the edge of 98, and it comes straight down 98, just 98, and then there's a gutter there, just made by, and it just pours
About
straight
that,
past
yeah.
and goes on down to the back box down to Merrill's place, fills up their parking lot.
That's not necessarily coming off 5th Street.
No,
Okay.
It's white water coming down 98.
Okay.
Okay, do y'all have any other
questions?
Okay, I just want to say that the site supervisor on Avenue B this morning asked me, and I told him I'd bring it up at the commission, if there would be an issue if they closed down all the intersections on Avenue B so that they can prep and ready the roads for asphalt. And that would be, I don't know, you know, it's going to be at least 2 weeks. They got to get the curb on the north side first. And then they would have to come back again and close all the intersections down while the asphalt is laid. So what do you all think about that, so I can report back to him?
Will the residents have access to their property?
Yes, they can all access their property from either side street.
I think the residents would accommodate the little bit of an inconvenience. I feel like the two businesses there at IGA and Jackson may have issues. It's gonna really bother them somewhat.
I agree, they especially need to coordinate with them.
He will coordinate. He's been coordinating with them, and Fisherman's wife as well.
Well, she's in the front there. She's really not affected by the Avenue B that much, so.
So do you all want me to tell him to go ahead with the plans and coordinate?
I would be like Russell. I would pay close attention to, I believe it'd be 7th Street and 8th Street.
Yeah. Let them know.
And know when they have deliveries scheduled.
Yes, and have it where they can prepare it and not wait 2 weeks on it to be paid.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
And they need to stick to what they do.
Yeah, he said they would prepare it and then open it back up, and it would be a few days before it was shut down to pave again. And they did coordinate very closely when they laid the driveway apron, delivery driveway for IGA. Sure did. And, yes, sir.
Can I just say something about the road closure? If they could put those signs on, at 98 or on C Avenue, it would really stop a lot of people from driving up there and having to turn around and come back, because I've seen a lot of that.
I've asked that once, I'll ask again. To bring, if they have the road closed signs right there where the road is closed, they need to kind of notify people down the next block that the road is closed before people ride up there all the way. You understand what I'm saying?
I do. We want to make sure there's access available to those along that side street between 98 and B.
Maybe if it said road closed ahead.
Right, just for some advanced signing that we can suggest. We can ask them to put up. So, well, thank you. We'll address that with the contractor.
All right, thank you.
Please do so with those, because I was sitting here thinking, I know both of those businesses that we're talking about, they have regular deliveries with semis that's from the back. And it's really going to create an issue for them if they're down for quite some time.
That's right. Okay, understood.
Okay, then, and I just want to let everyone know, and Russell as well, that we talked about this in our Water and Sewer Department meeting. And Courtney, I don't know if I have the name of the subdivision right, Bayou Estates or Bayou Harbor, out on Timber Island Road. Residents out there are requesting installation of water and sewer. So we talked to Courtney and Charlie and I discussed, you know, the funding options and the lack of, and you know, just how we would pursue this, and tap fees and E1 grinders and fire hydrants, and you know, this would be, I think there's 25 or 28 lots out there, and you know, we're going to have some of the residents come to our next Water and Sewer Department meeting and kind of give them an idea of what it is.
Is that a public subdivisions? Are the red lights public?
So but that's something that would probably take years to get done as well, unless we went to the bank and took out a loan to do it. All right.
Okay.
Anything else, gentlemen?
Thank you.
Okay. All right, then we'll move to our advisory board reports, and we have Ms. Tamara Allen with Waterfront Partnership.
Let's see if we can do it this way tonight. Good evening, everybody. I just wanted to give you a brief overview of the things that we've done during this past month. Several of you were involved with our cleanup, our coastal cleanup that we had on the 15th of September, and there were 25 individuals that picked up over 500 pounds of debris and garbage and tires and amazing amounts of garbage. Not out of the water, because except for Skip Frank, who was able to took a boat into the water. It was high tide, we weren't really able to get to the shore that much, but there is still a lot less than we found in the first few years that we did cleanups, but still an amazing amount of personal garbage that's being thrown in public lots and behind buildings and in the woods and all kinds of places. So we're extremely grateful to our volunteers that come every year to help us clean that up. And it was great this year. My favorite thing to tell you today is that we met this morning, we had the pre-construction meeting on phase 5 of the renovations, the state money that we have for renovations to the old city hall. And we have one more contract that's to be done by the architect for the contractor, but all of those things are falling into place, and they should have that ready for the city to sign next Tuesday. So will there be somebody that can sign it next week sometime to proceed on with that? Okay. We had a good meeting this morning where we went over the scope of the work, particularly of interest. We're redoing the front door and the back door of downstairs at the building, and it's been difficult. The front door has been difficult because there is no good photograph of what it used to look like historically. So we're having to go by the way it appears it might have been. So if anybody, we have all the pictures that we know of that are available at Walden Comm, but if anybody's got any home in their brownie camera or something, it would be a big help. But we are designing they're going to build a door that's going to fit to the proportions of the building. And the best part that I think is very prospective, spent a good bit of time talking about the difficulties in air conditioning and heating the building, particularly as it applies to the cost of the monthly electrical cost. And we've identified a couple of more options for moving the vents to the downstairs air conditioning unit so that they're getting a better draft to cover the whole downstairs. What's happening is the room where the air conditioner is where the thermostat is also. That room is ice cold, and the rest of the rooms, the further away you get from that spot, the hotter it is. So like the office, we're dripping and have extra fans. So they came up with a couple of ways that we're going to discuss with the air conditioning contractor that you've already used, that's going to come back and do the second phase to try to. We're no longer air conditioning upstairs with that unit. We're air conditioning the vent space between the floors. So that's not working either. So I think when we get through with this renovation, it should dramatically reduce the electric cost for the building. We're hopeful that that will be a permanent solution to that. But I was very excited that we're going to move forward with this, which will be way ahead of our typical schedule for doing these things. So we're very happy. Appreciate all the help from Courtney to get those things done. We had a very successful, the museum had a very successful Smithsonian Day, and if you haven't had a chance to come by and look at it, we did a special exhibit of women making history in Carrabelle, and we have a particular tribute to Commissioner Cheryl Sanders, who's retiring after 20 years of being a county commissioner, including a picture of her with her first buck that she killed at age 8, which is really worth coming in just to see that. It's so cute. And she looks exactly the same, only little. And then the other person we honored was Classy Lowry, as they used to call her, the mother of the hill. She not only birthed an enormous number of children, but she basically adopted all the children in the community that were in danger of going into the foster care system, because young black children were not treated very well in the foster system at that time. So she had her own 19 children, and then she adopted a number of other children and raised them all with very high expectations of them being successful. And they have wonderful stories about her, but we were able to actually find pictures of her, and then hopefully we'll be having a reception to honor both of those people in the near future when we can get them to come to town. But that was pretty special. And Smithsonian Day brought over 100 visitors to the Carrabelle History Museum alone, which is really special for us on Saturday. And we're continuing looking for some of the other funding for projects that we have going on. And we're going to talk about the museum sign later, right?
Yes.
On the agenda. So we want to talk about that. So that's all I have to share tonight, unless you all have any questions or comments.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor.
You're welcome.
Okay, we thank you so much. We'll look forward to hearing from you shortly.
Yes.
Okay. So then we'll move on with the Aviation Advisory Board report. Mr. Tim Sullivan.
Hey, good evening. You've got the report here. I met with Dan and the mayor and Courtney this afternoon about this new hangar. There's been a lot of negotiations going on and talks between Dan and the construction company, but we're not coming to an agreement. So we talked about it today, and I just wanted to bring this up because of the urgency of getting this completed. We're losing revenue that we should have been getting since March to get this concluded. The mayor mentioned about the grant management workshop we had here, which was the overall picture of how FDOT gets the funding and how it's distributed. The meeting in Shipley in October 30th will be at the district office, that's where we're getting our contacts on money, and everything that goes on to the airport goes through the district office. Last thing is, we've got next Friday we're going to have the fuel system pressure washed, and the next day we should be getting another load of fuel. Any questions?
Okay, and I would just say that next month you all will, the advertisement for the one regular member and 2 alternates will be.
It should have run today, I think.
Okay.
Should have
And
ran.
so then you all will receive those applications and recommend.
Right, we'll
Okay.
go through them and I recommend to them.
Okay, so then we'll be prepared to take action next month.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. Then we have the Carrabelle HR Committee report with Mr. Tom Mackey.
Okay.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, and good evening to everybody. And, just first, I did see the video from the last meeting, and I thank everybody for the kind words and the concern for my wife Meg, who was diagnosed with cancer, had surgery, and cancer's all gone. So, we're back on the road to recovery here. So I do thank you for that. And in September, we had one meeting on the 26th. And at that meeting, we discussed for the second time, the finance administrative assistant, previously known as the finance department. The committee thought that would be a more appropriate name for that position is the finance administrative assistant. So when Courtney makes a few changes on that we suggested, and that would be ready for presentation to you on October 25th at that meeting. We also did the first review of the the city administrator job description. Made several suggestions on that. Courtney is also going to look at some of the wording in the qualifications section. And our hope is that after we review it one more time on October 10th, that will be ready for presentation to the at the October 25th special meeting. Also on October 10th, we'll get our first look at the city clerk job description. And if things go as scheduled, we'll review that on the 10th, and then we'll review that again on the 24th after making any suggestions or changes that we think are needed on that. And hopefully that one will be ready also on the 25th. I don't think the committee can promise that the city clerk job description will be ready, but that's what our plan is right now. And we had our last meeting of 2018 is scheduled on October 14th, and at that time, and Tony brought this up about looking over the evaluation form for the city, which we think is pretty important, and it's just about a pressing issue, I think, at this time. We have, to my knowledge, I've seen 3 forms that have been submitted, one by Tony, one by myself, and one by Courtney. And there's also a form being used right now by the police department that we'll take a look at. And we not only want to come to some kind of agreement on a form that perhaps all city departments can use, or perhaps we'll take a look at that police department form and say that maybe the police department will use that form. But we want a form that really reflects the what each city employee, how they're doing on the job, and reward them when warranted, and suggest that form by that person's supervisor would suggest ways that they could improve their work as well. So we want that to be a comprehensive evaluation form, and we also got to look at how that evaluation form is going to be presented. It can be a written form. We can also adapt forms so that they're done on the computer and that they're saved in a file on a computer. And also how often that evaluation should be given. So we'll be talking about all those things on October 14th, and how far we get that at that meeting, we don't know, but that's going to be our focus once these job evaluations are completed. And the 3 that I just mentioned, when those 3 are completed and approved, the job evaluations will finish for all employees of the city. Each one will fall under one of those job descriptions. So that's where we're at right now. And,
very good. We'll have a celebration when you finish those job descriptions.
I think that'd be a nice accomplishment.
Yes, it would be. That's great. And we appreciate your volunteer work and dedication on that, and Ms. Meg as well. I know she helps behind the
She
scenes.
does help behind the scenes, yeah.
We do appreciate it.
And all the committee members have been very diligent in the work that we've been doing on those job evaluations, particularly Courtney, who takes a lot of that on.
Yes, she does.
Yeah. And a lot of good suggestions and recommendations, and a nice committee to work on.
I like the idea of the digitalized format for the evaluation form.
Yes, and I think once people see that, they'll see that it's really a lot easier to do one of those forms by computer. It's just like kind of fill it in, just like you would fill in an evaluation on the computer that some organization might send you to evaluate them. You could do the same thing in an evaluation form, and then print it out and then present it to the employee, and also save it in a computer file for that employee in that department. So we'll be talking about those things.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Do you all have questions or anything for Mr. Magnet? Okay. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, then we'll move on to public hearing, and Mr. Harper, will you be reading the resolution for us?
I will.
Okay, we have resolution 092018 regarding permit fees. Mr. Harper.
There we go. All right. Resolution 5-18, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Carrabelle establishing a fee schedule associated with the processing of building permit applications by city personnel, providing findings, providing for an effective date. Findings, whereas the City of Carrabelle is a Florida municipality duly incorporated with all the rights and powers as provided in Section 2B, Article 8 of the state constitution, whereas the City of Carrabelle has entered into an interlocal agreement with Franklin County.
Closer to the mic, we really can't hear.
Sure. Whereas the City of Carrabelle has entered into an interlocal agreement with Franklin County Board of County Commissioners for the purpose of coordinating and the processing of building permits and provision of plan review and inspection services associated with development in the City of Carrabelle, and whereas the city has chosen to charge certain fees associated with processing and review activities conducted by city staff associated with building permit applications and review, including FEMA and floodplain review. Therefore, be it resolved by the City Commission of the City of Carrabelle, Florida, that the city, Section 1, that the city finds that the adoption of a fee schedule is necessary to reimburse the city for staff time spent processing, reviewing, building permits. Section 2, the city adopts the attached document entitled City Building Permit Fee Schedule, effective on the date set forth below. A copy of the document entitled City Building Permit Fee Schedule adopted through this resolution is attached as Exhibit A here too. Section 3, effective date, this resolution shall take effect upon its adoption by the City Commission and signature by the mayor. So done this 4th day of October 2018. And this is from the last meeting. We discussed the need to cover our staff costs in processing building permits.
And staff did circulate the fee schedule that was suggested and discussed at our last meeting. And I have that here if anyone still has any further questions. If not,
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, then we have that motion to approve this resolution 092018 by Commissioner Millender. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Commissioner Allen. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And that motion carries. All right then. We thank you very much. And we'll move on to new business. And item number 1, we have with us this evening Weems Hospital CEO Mr. Cannington, and he's going to present to the commission. And welcome to Carrabelle.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate you allowing me to speak for just a minute. I've been at Weems Memorial Hospital for about 4 months, and as they were interviewing me, Cheryl Sanders and William Massey and the other commissioners told me all the things that needed to happen at Weems East at the clinic over here. Primarily needed urgent care, needed more services, and needed extended hours. So as of July the 21st, we do have a Saturday clinic, and it's open till noon every Saturday. We're seeing more and more patients, and I think as the word gets out, it'll be a really good thing for this community and for the clinic. The other thing is that we wanted to we had different practitioners coming and going, so we were fortunate enough to get Dana Whaley to come back. We still have Skip Parker, the PA, so we have regular staff right now. We're still having to fill in on Fridays because Dana's son plays football. I'm sure all of you know that, and she wants to make sure she can support that. So ultimately, she'll be full-time and Skip will be there. And we do have some other nurse practitioners that are helping out on Saturdays and to fill in. And one of them likes it so well over here that she's trying to build up her practice so she can move to Carrabelle from over in the Bay County area. Her name is Crystal Martin. So I think good things are going on right now. We're still looking at doing extended hours, starting with 1 night a week. We've got the providers now, we've got the staff now. We just want to make sure, we don't want to start something, then have to stop it because we don't have the staff. So we're, hopefully within the next few months, we'll be able to initiate that, see how that works for us. We're still looking, we still have specialty physicians coming in, and we're going to be meeting with somebody from TMH, Lauren Faison, on the 15th of October to see if there are other specialists that maybe we can get to come down. And I think that helps, keeps people from having to drive 70 miles or whatever for health care. We're looking at the urgent care, trying to provide other services like X-ray and not respiratory, but EKGs. May look at some other services, but again, we don't want to jump in and bite out more than we can chew. So we'll take it kind of slowly, but the idea is to try to provide more services in this area because you really need it. I think the next nearest facility is in Crawfordville, and that's a pretty good ways from here. So having said all of that, you'll have an opportunity to come by and meet our staff, and all the providers will be there this coming Tuesday, October the 9th, from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. We're going to have some little finger foods and things like this. I think we're going to have some other health professionals there, so if you do get a chance, we appreciate you coming by. And then we'll keep trying to move things forward. Also, the hospital itself is going to have a community health fair on November the 17th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And we're going to have about 20 providers there doing different kind of health screens, diabetic testing, and of course blood pressures and cholesterol and things like that. And so I think that'll be a nice thing. So if you can get over that way, that would be good. And that's on November the 17th. And I've got a couple of flyers here that I'll leave with you. Y'all can sort of post them or something. The only other thing I'll mention right now is that the other thing that the county commissioners and also our local board, which Michael Clerk sits on and is actually chair of our finance committee and is very, very active in what we have going on. But the other thing was to make sure that we had EMS services up where it needs to be. And so I can tell you that as of right now and going forward, we'll have 3 ALS trucks in the county. Well, they're either in the county or they'll be making transports 24/7. And fully staffed with paramedics. We just had we were fortunate to have 2 full-time EMTs that just became paramedics. So now we can have at least 1 paramedic on each of our 3 trucks, the one in Atlanta, the one in East Point, and the one in Appalachia. So I feel like EMS is not broken anymore, and so that's good news. That's pretty much all I have to present. Thank you for allowing me to come and tell you what's going on.
Thank you for coming.
We thank you. We certainly appreciate you coming over to Carrabelle, and like I said, look over this way and see if you want to move over here.
We're
We're glad you're
see
here.
you guys. Appreciate it.
Okay, and let me reconfirm this. The open house here at Weems Urgent Care is Tuesday, October the 9th, 2 to 4.
2 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Oh, 2 to 6 p.m. 2 to 6.
So we can catch the folks that are working and they can still come by.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys.
All right, glad to meet you. Good luck in your new position.
Thank you.
All right, item number 2, discussion and possible action concerning special exception for residential use in the C1 zone at 108 Southeast Avenue A. And this is the vacant lot beside the Hairspray, which was the old Birdless Pharmacy that we all remember. And we have Ms. Janlyn Dowdy. Hi.
Hey, y'all.
Good.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
It's not the exact deal with it, but it's something that I'm going for.
Okay.
I'm here to ask for a special exception to build a 2-story building in a commercial zone, and the bottom floor would be commercial and the top would be residential. 2 bedrooms, 2 baths.
Okay, I know you went before the P&Z And I'm just gonna ask how that came out.
All right,
Okay, Mr. Park.
at P&Z, we had basic compliance with the mail-outs and all the prerequisites. We had 2 recusals on the P&Z board that evening. There's 5 members that were there, 2 recusals, so we had 3 voting. And the vote was basically denied a special exception. A 2-1 vote.
And you
When I
were,
say that's the recommendation.
yes, they're also advisory board. And so you're saying you want to have the business on the bottom and resident on the top. Generally, we like to take the recommendations of the planning and zoning, but I don't understand.
I mean, try to elaborate. We do have
Yes.
some members from the board
Give me
here.
some insight.
So if I don't want to misstate anything, so anybody from the board can certainly step up. There was discussion at the beginning. Ms. Dowden presented the project, and we discussed a fair amount about the project, asking questions and that sort of thing, of potential uses of both the residential and commercial space. And again, it's commercial, similar to other projects we've had where someone wants a residential component or a residence in commercial, C1. There was a motion to approve it. It died for lack of a second. So there was one of the 3 folks made a motion to approve it. It died for lack of a second. And then when it came back up, but actually at my urging to say we need to approve, deny, or approve with conditions. Then a motion was made to deny it. That was seconded, voted on 2-1. So there wasn't a lot of this. There was discussion just generally about the project. There was not a lot of discussion pertaining to the denial as far as the basis of the denial.
We have been trying to urge development of businesses in a business district. And on that basis, I think we should take a look at doing this.
I would
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay. So we have that motion by Commissioner Allen and a second by Commissioner Mathis. And do we have discussion? Would you like to?
Yes. I'm in the same line with him here. Anyone that ever talked to me about Carrabelle in the business district, I'm pro. I would like to see some new blood, new circulation. I think that this request may prompt us looking a little closer, and we may ask our planning and zoning board to do so in looking at our land use in commercial district, etc., and not try to do anything that's perceived or could turn into a spot zoning type thing. I would like for us to go a little bit further with that. I do support, and I think this is a healthy start, again, as been stated already. And anyway, but I'd like for us to go a little bit further with it and ask the planning and zoning board to kind of start looking at that and see if we can't plan towards growth of this nature, maybe, but we need to look at it and not just do specific, not the specific, but not do just spot here, spot there, spot here, spot there. That's what a land use and a zoning plan is for, is to do that. But anyway, I'd like for us to look at it a little bit further. Now, I'm definitely, I'm going to vote in favor of this because I do like the idea that there's something new and it may give it new blood. There's a commercial component to it, and I think it's a good move right at the moment.
I agree. But first of all, I want to say to the Planning and Zoning Board, I don't want you to be discouraged because we do want to take your recommendations. I talked with the city administrator about this, and she explained to me. Now, we don't do a lot of working with the comp plan and the LDR because that's on the planning and zoning. But this type of residence on top of businesses is in our comp plan right now. So, you know, and I like to see the new construction. It's, you know, that's what I had hoped, that our public sector investment down here at City Hall would help promote private sector investment like this. This would be something that would be nice to go along Avenue B once they finish that. 2 or 3 or 4 Bs. I mean, it would really be something. And it helps improve our revenues so that we can hire a new streets and roads person or something.
And Mayor, I would like to echo, and that's part of what I wanted to say, is I would not want our planning and zoning board to get discouraged and think that the commission, I can speak for myself, going against what planning and zoning is doing. Planning and zoning is doing a great job, I think. And I can speak personally from sitting on Franklin County Planning and Zoning Board for 16 years. If you could get to the point that you felt like if the commission, the city commission or the county commission in that case, was not going to accept your recommendation, sometimes your work may be in vain. But definitely it's not in vain. We appreciate everything that's being done. But it's just my opinion as me as an individual, again, I think this would be a healthy move and a start for the commercial area.
Okay, and then I will say again, I want to thank the Planning and Zoning Board.
Yes.
They are volunteers, and we do
Yes.
thank you for your service.
And you do a great job.
So, any further discussion? Okay, then I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor? Aye. And any opposed? And then that motion carries. And we'll look forward to seeing the new building. Okay, and thank you again, all of you. Okay, then, item 3, this is a discussion and possible action regarding the Planning and Zoning Board recommendations to the Land Development Regulations, Table 2.02.01, which is allowable uses, and recommendations as to additional areas in the city where boat storage and or RV storage could be considered.
Okay,
Okay,
just
yes, sir.
quickly, the reason this came up is the P&Z was tasked with kind of working on at their meeting, I call it workshopping, but it's a regular meeting, and determining or making a recommendation to the commission regarding RV and boat storage in C1, if there's a location in the city, kind of conditions and that sort of thing, to make a recommendation to you. While we went through that process, we noticed a number of inconsistencies as well as just, for lack of a better term, problems with the chart that was, I wouldn't say hastily adopted, but we just haven't had much application of that chart or use of that chart for the decade since it was adopted. And in going through it, we actually ran into 2 or 3 problems that night as far as just, again, permitted uses versus special exception uses versus what's allowed in industrial versus commercial versus C1, C2. There was just some things that didn't make common sense in there. And before we went too far down that road, I suggested, and they made a motion to come back to the city commission in order to get their, I'll call it mandate, widened a little bit. So not just boat and RV storage, but to come back to the commission with a recommendation, a broader recommendation that would recommend amendment of that chart, which would be required for boat and RV storage as well, if there's any movement on that. But just to straighten out and make suggestions on changes to that chart.
And I want to make a motion that we do that we proceed with tasking the Planning and Zoning Board with that responsibility and request as they have noticed. And it falls right in line with what I was just saying about our commercial district, looking at some of the items there and look at and see if the land use and comp plan may need to be adjusted in any way to accommodate a healthier growth or today's need for a healthier growth in the commercial area. So I make that motion that we task them with that request.
Okay, so I have a motion to proceed with tasking Planning and Zoning Board with the responsibility to amend the land use and comp plan and make recommendations to amend the land use and comp plan. Does that sound all right?
Yes.
Okay. So we have that motion by Commissioner Millender. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Mathis, and then we have discussion. Is there discussion? And I have some important discussion here. Our next agenda item, item number 4, includes a consideration of an interlocal agreement, which was circulated to all of you. Maybe you have it on your desk as well. An agreement regarding contracting the services of a professional economic development planner who's here with us tonight. He's a member of the Appalachian Regional Planning Council staff. And that agreement, part of that scope of work, includes for this staff member, Mr. Richard Betchek, to review the city's land development regulations and assist with recommendations regarding changes and amendments to the LDR. So, and the comprehensive plan, and help us with economic development goals. So actually what might happen, there may be a workshop or two with the P&Z or a workshop with us, this commission, and it would be guided by Mr. Betchek, who could help us as but we need to vote on that scope of work in the first place, but I just want to remind you that's coming up. So we have that motion by, is there any other discussion? Do you have any comment, Mr. Hartman?
I do not.
Okay. Seemed like you did.
Sorry, I was commenting on the prior item.
All right.
That's why I was
Okay.
jabbering.
That's all right. So all in favor for this motion? Okay. Any opposed? And then that motion carries. All right. So the Planning and Zoning Board have a job ahead of them. And we'll be hearing from you. Okay. So item 4, discussion of possible action. After presentation by Mr. Richard Betchek, ARPC Economic Development Regional Planner. Welcome to Carrabelle, sir.
Thank you much. I'm very happy to be here. Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for inviting me tonight, and Carrabelle staff members. I am Richard Betchek, the Economic Development Director at Appalachian Regional Planning Council. I had the pleasure of working with the mayor and city staff over the past few months. Wanted to catch you up on all those activities, and then of course it sounds like there's a great deal of interest in zoning and planning, for which we're well equipped to serve the city. As you may already know, Appalachian Regional Planning Council is created by an interlocal agreement among 9 counties, of which Franklin is one. So technically we answer first to them for services, but our small cities are great patrons and collaborators with us. So for instance, I'm working with City of Sockchoppy right now to develop placemaking and beautification services. To catch you up on things that we have done hand in hand with City of Carrabelle so far, I'm going to jump around on these items. And first and foremost, we wrote a DEP Florida Resilient Coastlines Program grant in order to assess the effects of sea level rise and associated flooding on the city. We were awarded that, and I'm happy to say that the contract has finally been executed, and we will be holding a first meeting to which we've invited the City of Carrabelle staff and others on October 22nd. That'll be held in Gulf County, since Franklin and Gulf are also participating. The aim within that is to strengthen your comprehensive plan's coastal management element. We are going to help provide the mapping and policy direction that will make you look very good and competitive on future, the buzzword being resilience grants. So opportunities to make the extensive coastline less susceptible to flooding, helping businesses and natural systems to weather the coming century of change. So that is in motion. We're doing it. It's free of cost for the city since we are working via a DEP grant. Again, I want to thank Mayor La Paz and the city for working with us to submit a second proposal to DEP to follow up on the first year. Again, this is the Florida Resilience Coastlines Program, and this would take it to a more personalized city resident and business level, wherein we're going to if awarded, reach out to the city at large, citizens and residents, in order to engage them about sea level rise, adaptation, making sure the city stays strong for decades to come, since it's been around for quite some time already, as I read on the historical posters at the Marine Street gazebo. So there are two items in which we've already been collaborating with the city, and through that conversation, it arose that April 1st, 2019 is the date at which DEO, Department of Economic Opportunity, expects an EAR letter, determination of EAR letter, so evaluation and appraisal report of its comprehensive plan. So entering into conversation with the mayor and Mr. Hartman, we have been charting a course of action that will set the city up to fulfill what it needs to do at DEO, and again, continue to look like it's exceeding expectations. But then, of course, most importantly, to change the comprehensive plan or adjust it where necessary to suit the City Commission's goals and those of its residents. So I can speak to that process, the one that we've sort of settled upon.
And you've settled on it with Mr. Hartman as well, is that correct?
To my knowledge, yes. Okay, great. So essentially, the city, again, with Mr. Hartman, did some excellent work in 2014 to update its 2007 comprehensive plan. That's the whole set, from the future land use element to the traffic circulation to conservation, recreation, housing, etc. There are a lot of housekeeping items within it, such as dates that just needed to be nixed and replaced with something more current, or to take stock of what had or hadn't been done. Again, the comprehensive plan is a roadmap. A lot of it is self-determination, having a course, charting a course. And while there are statutory regulations, I try to urge my small cities not to see it as this burden, but as this great chance to spell out your future. So 2014 went over well, and as far as I can tell, through the TA grant, it was submitted to DEO, received minor comment about a few Florida Administrative Code policies, and unfortunately, the city did not submit the adopted version. When that happens, when 180 days pass between the proposed and the adopted, DEO rescinds the acknowledgement of the new amendment, whether it be small or large. So as such, legally speaking at the state, which you all can speak to, may not have had huge repercussions, they still have on file your 2007 comprehensive plan as the Carrabelle comprehensive plan. So I am recommending that enabled through this interlocal, since the RBC is very lean, we do all of our work kind of on a contract by contract basis, but we provide it to the region in as efficient a manner as we can. We're going to go through, check the 2014 ER, that's what it's called, amendment, workshop it at, I believe, an October 18th meeting, if that's passed, and give it the fine-tooth comb review with you all. Simultaneously, a lot of these issues require a lot of discussion and thought, and so our strategy is to show DEO that we have an updated plan. Through the Resilient Coastlines program project that I told you about first, we're trying to be on the cutting edge of policies. And so at the time of before April 1st, we're going to say, we'll write the EAR determination letter saying we do not need to do a full EAR. Case in point, we passed this extensive revised document through the expedited state review process, which subjects it to less scrutiny by DEO. And We're also integrating coastal management element updates per peril of flood, which is 163, 3178, F1 through 6. Those are, redeveloping after storms to, again, acknowledge the effects of sea level rise. Having done that, again, working with the city, I see lots of opportunity to work toward DEO-TA grant proposals that fulfill the planning aims and wishes of the commission. So we will be up to speed with our statutory obligations, having done what I just described, and then we can go above and beyond that, like the FERDAP grant, the Recreation Development Assistance Program, and apply for DEO technical assistance funding in order to look at land development regulations such as the C1 district, where a special exception is required to approve mixed use with commercial on the first floor and residential above. And we can go the whole length. We could write an economic development element for the comprehensive plan. So for that 6 to 8 month window or horizon, there's just a lot deeper of a dive that we can go into. I believe that covers our comprehensive plan resubmission strategy and the current projects that we're working on and have applied to. And the last bullet that I have is simply Triumph applications, Triumph Gold Coast. I have done REMI, economic modeling impact analysis, for City of Apalachicola, Franklin County, and numerous other applicants in order to bolster their application. Combined with discussions, direct discussions with Dr. Harper and Corey Henderson, who are the first line review, they're not the final approval, but first line review, assuming the interlocal can go into effect, we can also talk about strengthening the City of Carrabelle's applications as well, which actually I did provide.
For our airport and Northwest Avenue B commercial revitalization, you did that for free for us. Thank you so very much.
Correct.
Okay.
So that is something that could potentially be.
Yes, and if you could help us with our applications, we're having a difficult time getting some folks that understand how to complete those. So, and then he said he's presented his interlocal agreement here, and I sent that to Mr. Hartman. I can't remember when, if it was today or yesterday, for you to just take a quick review. And it was circulated to everyone to review, see what you all might think about it. I think that Mr. Fetchek could help us out here. We certainly need help with getting our comprehensive plan update submitted so that we can qualify for some DEO grants, technical assistant grants. We've applied for several for GIS mapping 3 years in a row, and we were at one point getting DEO grants, and we weren't, and now I understand why, because we're, not necessarily, I can't say not in compliance, but we didn't follow through with this one, so we need to go ahead and get that taken care of.
I can't speak to the precise GIS project for which you applied to DEO. However, included in the interlocal are GIS services provided by our current full-time GIS specialist.
And now you all just received, ARPC just received a grant to do GIS mapping for all 8 regions in the Appalachian counties, not the cities yet. Right.
So it's called Appalachia Online. It is, I guess, in this sense, I would make the distinction that the GIS we're pursuing through that is county by county for our 8 rural counties, and it's less of a housekeeping per se, and some of it's tourism supported. So that's really where that one's especially focusing. So it can and should speak to historical assets in the City of Carrabelle that can attract visitors, but may not be exactly the GIS you all are looking for.
I did have just a couple quick comments, and some of it historic, is the city doesn't have a planning department. So historically, we have relied on DEO grants or back when it was Department of Community Affairs grants, or however we did it, we kind of moved in fits and starts on planning matters. And that was, and I've been here, I was here 05 timeframe, then out 06, 08, and then we pick it back up, I think we're in 08. So I can't speak to 06, 7, 8, which are part of 8, which were an important time from the standpoint, we started the old comp plan, or the 07 comp plan process during, when I was here under, I want to call it a certain commission, then there was a big election for seats changed hands, and then it unfolded during that the tenure of those commissioners at that time. But the bottom line was we've always relied heavily on grant funding to fund the planning efforts that we've had. We've had consultants in the past that cost more than this, and I do as well. So I would work off some of that grant funding myself, and to make Mr. Fetchek our auxiliary planning department under the terms set forth in here, in my experience, I would say that's a pretty good deal. And what has concerned me for a number of years, and we haven't been hit with anything, because literally at a time in the past where we had zoning changes, land use changes coming up at almost every meeting. We had a lot of development activity, which we literally haven't had any since 08, right? We haven't had to do a land use change, we haven't had to do, we may have had one or two zoning changes, but we just haven't had any involvement even in the comp plan process. But we had nothing but involvement in that when we were more, when it was, the economy and real estate was rolling along. That will come again. It may not be the same fire hose pace, but it will come at a garden hose pace, and we are not prepared for that now. So we need to get, you know, it's made me kind of slow down too, is we have a lot of issues on our agendas, but and you go back and look at agendas from 04 or 05 or 06, it was at least half development, and it was land use changes, zoning changes. Trying to remember how many times we would go through that process, and having a functioning LDR and comp plan will be important if we get hit with that. We'd be struggling right now on some issues.
Did Baskerville government work with us on that?
Wilson Miller did.
Wilson
Miller. Baskerville did a lot of utility stuff for us at that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I will say Mr. Fetchek is an accomplished economic development planner, and has degrees in it, of course, and experience. And it's unfortunate our economic development council is almost non-existent at this point. So I would suggest to go ahead and accept this interlocal agreement. And as Mr. Hartman said, you know, it would be great to have Mr. Fetchek as the auxiliary planning department and be able to reach out to the ARPC. They have well, we can reach out to them anyway. They have a great staff, very helpful. So I have to leave it up to the pleasure of the commission.
So you want a motion then to go ahead and adopt this?
Well, that's what I'm recommending, but I want to add.
That's what I was thinking.
Yes,
about.
as needed.
Yeah.
That's
What it is, what the way it's laid.
So the way it's laid out is $50 an hour, not to exceed $8,500 in a fiscal year.
Annually.
That's what I'll make a motion that we do that. There we are.
I'll second.
One.
Okay, and then I have a question. So we have a motion by Commissioner Out and a second by Commissioner Millender, and then discussion. Okay, so is this then renewed, this interlocal agreement renewed annually? Is that how?
Completely up to the discretion of the commission.
Okay, so if we don't need you, we don't need you. If we need you, we need you.
Sure.
Okay. Is that understood
We
then?
could amend it at any time.
We're fine with that.
All right.
We don't owe you any money if you can get a grant paid.
Essentially, what this is it's filling the gap until hopefully we can win the DEO.
We're just throwing a little ball.
But now, if he comes, we have a special workshop on the 18th, and he comes now, we'll have to work it out. So we have that motion. We've had discussion. Any more discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, then that motion carries. All
Thank
right.
y'all.
Okay, so now we want to talk about scheduling a combined workshop with the P&Z on October the 18th at 1:30. It was suggested. Have you all been in touch with the P&Z members? Have you sent notices out?
I sent an email out to P&Z.
Okay. So that we can review your comments, and I've got a list of your comments, and that was circulated as well. Review your comments to updates regarding this comprehensive plan, and then get that submitted. You want to tell us about it again?
Well, this is good. So speaking to that, the review that I provided in the packet is some deeper kind of considerations as well as housekeeping. It doesn't all need to be covered at an upcoming planning and zoning board meeting. Some of those issues like concurrency for transportation have been changed since 2012 and thereon. Those are things where we probably want to get more into the weeds with it through a TA grant. For the current schedule, our push is to take the lightning rod approach and utilize the great 2014 ER amendment, which went through the whole comprehensive plan, and get that sent to DEO with minor modifications reflecting the 4 years that have elapsed as soon as we can. So really, in that respect, we can sort of pass through it, bring up questions. I can make any other strike-through underlying changes that are recommended, and then I guess the city commission in a follow-up meeting in November would vote to transmit it to DEO as proposed.
So, this is a pleasure of the board then regarding a combined special workshop with the P&Z board on October the 18th.
The P&Z meeting, Keisha, isn't it for that day at 4:30?
So we would change it.
It would,
Yeah. To 1:30.
That you probably have your meeting after the workshop?
if we have anything, right as of now, we don't have anything.
And then, Mr. Hartman, would you be able to,
I'll be
I
there.
sent you a heads up on that already, then we scheduled that. So, it's a pleasure of the board regarding a motion to have a combined workshop.
You need a motion to that, right?
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we combine the workshop.
Okay, for October the 18th at 1:30. Okay, do we have a second? Okay, second by Commissioner Millender. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, then that motion carries. October 18th, okay. All right, very good. She's a P&Z member, and we've got another P&Z member over here. So, thank you for coming, Mr. Fetchick. You don't have to stay till the end. I know you got to go back to Tallahassee.
I just want to scamper back to the big city, but thank you for having me, and you'll have my number.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay.
Okay, would you all like to take a break? Okay, all right. Let's take a little recess here, 5 to 8 minutes, okay? Take a moment, we want to re-adjourn here.
But anyway, we got.
We have all the okay. All right, and we're going to call back to order this commission meeting. So we have item 5 of old business, and it's discussion and possible action concerning surplus water and sewer department property in Lanark. And the commissioners have before them two aerial maps. One is of Warren Drive, where the city has, or excuse me, the water and sewer department has 2 adjacent platted properties that combine their 375 linear feet along Warren Drive. And that's approximately 5 of the Lanark standard lots where they build, where you can build a house. And then along Oak Street, you see approximately 970 linear feet, and that equals about 13 Lanark lots. This is just an estimate that I received got off the property appraiser's line website by using their measurement tools there.
So I could share with Mr. Tower.
Yeah.
Didn't print one for everybody.
So,
I don't want it.
okay. And we want to make sure that everybody, all the commissioners understand these locations. We've talked with Charlie about this, and, you know, he says that it's unused property that's surplus, and he doesn't foresee it ever being used by the Water and Sewer Department. Up here where you see this circle, that's where the proposed cell tower wants to be. And they would put their driveway, their proposed driveway is at the end of Spring Street. So that would disrupt that long section there on Oak Street. Y'all know where Spring Street is there? Okay. So that's concerning, and I wanted to bring that to your attention regarding the cell tower. First of all, because that would disrupt that property, and they had a cell tower lease talking about surrounding property, that you couldn't have certain uses with surrounding property in the cell tower. I don't think it really didn't, Mr. Hartman, it didn't outline really what.
That was another comment sent back, is that whether it's, I forget which exhibit that is, but the property, the lease property, and the surrounding property, we need to define that like specifically and limit it, because we've got a lot of property, we don't want to tie it all up under an option or a lease. So they're working on that, I think, get us a better description.
And then if we were to consider selling this property, a surplus property, then they would have to, if they want to put a cell tower, they would have to figure out another route to get to it.
We would actually, because I actually crossed out a bunch of this, talking about easements, because you don't give an easement to yourself. Because then it's lease property, we still own it. So that's just a legal principle. However, in this scenario, let's say, just a hypothetical, but we approve the lease, they start building something up here. If we surplus this property, part of the term of the sale would be that the new owner of Oak Street would grant an easement. You know, an easier thing to do would be literally just cut out a 30-foot right away right there. Actually, just do two pieces. So that way we don't fuss with it.
And the profits from this could be used, you know, we're researching a loan through the USDA to put water in at Lighthouse Estates to coincide with the septic to sewer project. And you could take the proceeds from this to make the down payment on the loan, and then there was going to be a little grant to match the loan, and that would hopefully keep the payments low enough that we would not have to raise rates on everyone, because if there's the possibility that if we get that loan, we'll have to raise rates on everyone to make the payment, and that's.
Let me suggest one additional thing. I've never seen this before. This is creative, but it would be up to you all just to consider. Is I'm looking at the layout that we printed, and there's these lots, the little, and they look like maybe 75 by 100 or so lots, the ones preceding it as you're going east.
Yes.
I've never seen this before, but this property would obviously be worth a lot more if it was cut up in lots. You'd sell each of those lots for, I don't know, the market out there would say $15,000, $20,000 lots, or say 15.
Yeah, if we raise rates, we're gonna get impeached.
And there's probably 15 lots there. 15 lots at whatever lot price is out there would be a significant amount of money, as opposed to selling it raw land. The creative part of that is if you were a private developer, and that's what someone would do on this, is they would go to the county and plat it and get it laid out. It's on an existing road, it has its utilities, has this and that. I've never, I don't think, really seen a city, a government go in for a plat approval. Like, we would literally go in there and say, hey, we'd like to break it up into lots, and then we would surplus those lots. And we could surplus them all at once. We could surplus them in doubles and singles and triples, whatever, but it would increase the value of this property, I would think, tenfold or more. It would just vastly increase it. And I mean, that's what, I mean, if I had a private client, that's what I tell them to do before they sell it. I tell them invest $5,000 in engineering. Again, assuming the plat process is easy because you got existing stormwater, existing water, existing sewer, everything, you draw out to the Oak Street. You just lot, like we do on the River Road. We've done that. That's an acre, and you say, okay, I want to do 5,000 or 10,000 square foot lots, and you just draw a line on it, and do a lot split. Again, I don't know the county process, so but we should consider that. I don't know how the county would treat it. The city is an applicant, but I hope well, and that would be a small investment for quite a big return on the surplus. Oh, I see, you're right, there are 13 lots. Approximately. And they're not laid out as lots now. They're not actually lots. They're excellent.
So, I just wanted to go ahead and bring that to your attention. I didn't know if all commissioners knew that property was there and owned by the Water and Sewer Department. There's an option to help us get our water installation out at Lighthouse Estates. So we could research it. Of course, it would have to be surveyed in the first place.
I don't believe that one survey until we get one funded through the county. I wouldn't.
Oh, sorry, when I say that is we could sell it, we could cut it out and sell it, surplus it as is. Then obviously I can give them a wild idea and you'll see how that would, what would it take to make 13 lots out of that? That would be.
Or whatever the standard lot is, these lots that are right here to the east, I guess you'd go with that same size.
If we were to surplus, because there's a lot I see, and I think that there's others that have the same idea. Water and sewer is one idea. There's some other ideas. We could use a lot of money in certain different places.
Now, if this is owned by Water and Sewer, could you sell this and use it on the city side?
No. This is an enterprise fund that you could go, the city can invest money in water and sewer, but not vice versa. How is it titled though? I think it's titled in the name of the city.
Keisha says yes.
Yeah, it should be just, I think it is all under just City of Carrabelle.
But just as you say, so is the physical plant of the water sewer, stuff is all in the name of that. I'm trying to think if it's listed as an asset of water and sewer, an enterprise fund.
I don't know. I know on Warren Drive there is an abandoned well there. That was their water. This little building here in the front, that was their water and sewer office.
I would say, and maybe a question for Mark Payne is on our books, how is it held? From the standpoint, is it considered an asset of the enterprise fund? Like the physical plant of the land and the capital improvements, the water and sewer plants, things like that.
So it would be the pleasure of the board. How do we want to move forward on researching this option? I guess not. Then we'll just sit on it and just look fat and happy.
I said set. You don't need it, get rid of it.
All right, sit on it.
Say sit on it, no? Okay.
I mean, we would have to have a motion to move forward.
I'll make a motion to move forward.
Okay. And what we would do is Mr. Department suggests is, first of all, find out through the CPA how the property is listed. So we have a motion to move forward by Commissioner Mathis. Do we have a second? Do we have a second?
I'll second it, so we get it on the table.
Okay. All right, is there any further discussion? Any discussion? Okay, all right, so I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, then, decidedly the motion carries. All right, so we're gonna research it anyway. We'll make it, get Mr. Hartman to kind of help us and advise us a little bit on that. All right? Is that okay?
Sure. It's okay.
You can maybe get us a price on what it might be. All right, so item number 6 is Tamara Allen. Discussion of possible action concerning shared use of the city billboard located at Sands Park for 3 museums.
Not sure, Chad.
I'm here tonight representing the group of 3 museums here in Carrabelle. Obviously, the Carrabelle History Museum, the Camp Gordon Johnson World War II Museum, and the Lighthouse Museum as well. And we've been working together in the last probably 8 months to try to cross support one another and refer people to the other, if they come to my museum first, to say, well, don't miss the other 2 museums and so forth. And we had an excellent collaborative event on Smithsonian Day. And so we were encouraged by some various things. We went to the TDC and got, thanks to Mayor La Paz, we were able to get some special funding for doing a campaign to refresh especially when the World War II moved, all of our 3 museum stuff was out of date. We've redone our brochures and our posters, and we're doing small billboards that you'll see around town. But we've been looking at other options for promoting the 3 museums of Carrabelle. And we remembered that previously, Camp Gordon Johnson Museum and the other attractions in town had worked together on doing the billboard that you all own that's in Sands Park. And it had actually, I thought, a fabulous graphic on it with all the various things that were available to do in Carrabelle. It, however, has faded over the past 10 years. And it's faded and the bushes are grown up now, you can't really see, well, it helps to cover the fact that you can't see what's on there. So our museums are coming to ask for permission to use the city's billboard and to put up, this is a draft poster. It's similar to an ad that we put in the Apalachicola Chamber of Commerce magazine, and so we Visitors magazine, but something along this line that would be easier to read from driving by, perhaps to not have the little map on it. But this is the idea we have about promoting the 3 museums, and so we're here asking for permission to use your billboard, and I guess that's really what we're asking for.
All right. I have 2 questions.
Okay.
Do you have a term proposal?
Well, I was going to suggest that we might try it on a year-by-year basis, because it could be that in the future you would have other attractions or other developments in town that you might want to use that billboard for. And so I think doing it for, I think 10 years is too long. So, I mean, we would be, it will be pricey to put something that big up, so that we would all be working to gather the money to split it 3 ways. You know, if we could do it for a year to 3 years, I think we could feel confident that the technology of billboards that we would consider would last at least 3 years and still look respectable.
I think a year is not long enough, because I know
Probably.
are you planning on doing both sides?
Yes.
Okay, so, you know, it's gonna be costly.
Right, and it may be, you know, when we get right down to it, we have to consider how costly it will be, but we had to start somewhere, so we thought if we could get permission to use it, then we'll go about finding ways to pay for that. So that's our proposal.
I just wanted to add too, if y'all remember, we went through this a few years ago, that we couldn't use it for anything other than some kind of Carrabelle nonprofit, because it would be considered off-site advertisement. So to be exempt, it would need to stay with Carrabelle, something that's owned by Carrabelle. And I think Russell can elaborate more, but we went around and around with
Considered on-site.
off-site advertisement.
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Mathis, and, do we have a second?
I second it, but I agree with you. I think 1 year is
Too short.
period.
It is, I wasn't really thinking about that.
Uh-huh.
So how many years are we?
Yeah, what would you, how many years would you like to motion for, Commissioner Mathis?
3 years?
All right.
I agree.
Okay, so, and Commissioner Millender agrees with that. So we have a motion by Commissioner Mathis to allow the 3 museums to use this Sands Park billboard for 3 years. And that second is by Commissioner Millender. Is there any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and that motion carries, and we may see you at TDC.
Thank you. You may see us at the
Okay.
TDC.
All right.
We also will be back to you to discuss things like who's going to help us cut the bushes down, because I think you
I
all,
know it.
that the bushes really.
But right now, they were.
Oh, right now they cover up
Okay.
a multitude of problems, yes. Thank you so
Like
much.
selling to a timber company.
Right, we can sell them to them. They don't buy oleander unless it's looking for poison.
I'd like to know why my picture's not on there. I was looking at the police actors.
You're getting. Oh, in Franklin County.
That was picking you up.
But you're still, you know, you're still alive, that's why it is, you have to wait until you're gone.
Uh-oh, I don't want to go on your board.
Okay, all right, well,
Oh,
congratulations.
Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome. We'll be glad to see the new billboard. Okay, so we have item 7, discussion of possible action concerning special exception for that which was issued to Paula Cuddy, and possibly of changing her request. And hello, Ms. Cuddy, how are you doing?
I'm good, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
So a year ago when I received a special exception, it was put through as just be able to reside at my bed and breakfast when I build my bed and breakfast. I would like to be able to change that so that I could build my residence first, so I can get in there and then start building the business portion of the bed and breakfast after this. I'm asking for this because as it stands now, to build my residence portion, it has to go to commercial standards, and that's out of my pocketbook to be able to do it that way.
So, and I'll just give a little background. This was brought up about a year ago, and I received a request from Ms. Cuddy to reside at her bed and breakfast. I had her send out all the statements to all her neighbors, which she did. It went through the board, she got approval. and the approval just said to reside at the bed and breakfast. Well, then, I had a contractor call me wanting to pull building permits for a residential home, which I do not have the authority to do because you only approved for her to reside at a bed and breakfast, meaning that the bed and breakfast, the main building was the commercial building, and she would live inside of it. So with that being said, I told the architect that it would have to be built to commercial standards, meaning exit signs, you know, ADA accessibility, because it is a bed and breakfast. And I also explained to Ms. Cody that if she wanted, her idea was a little different than we perceived when we passed it, that if she wanted to be able to build a residential home and then build these commercial cottages around the home as her building, that she would have to go for another special except to build a residential structure, which would have to go through the process again of sending out the certified return receipts. I'm not sure why the certified were sent out for this meeting, but it looks like there were some sent out again, a second letter. The letter was not the form that we send out. So we really just, if she wants to build a residential structure, then she needs to go through the process.
The planning and zoning.
Right.
Process. But now, so once if she builds a residential structure and it becomes she gets a special exception for a residence, then how can she do her commercial?
Well, right now she has a commercial special exception because even if she was to build a motel, she'd need a special exception to have any kind of residential use.
And sorry to make this more confusing, you get a special exception to do residential and commercial, which we've done plenty of. Like that's something that's come before the commission and the P&Z many times. Especially stick-built home, nice stick-built home in the commercial blocks on north of 98. We've had a number of those applications. And then to do, if we're just breaking it apart, which it seems like we're talking about, we've got a home, residential home, and then we also have then bed and breakfast structures that are contemplated for the future. So that's, and to do a bed and breakfast is also a special exception in C1. So that would come along down the road when she's ready.
Right, if she did not pull permits within a year, her special exception for her bed and breakfast would be void. So she would have to come back then again to get her special exception for her bed and breakfast.
She's got a special exception for the bed and breakfast.
Which is a commercial building.
Commercial, and then what I guess we're recommending and what she would need to do is if she's saying, hey, I'm not building a bed and breakfast now, I just want to build a single family home in commercial C1, which is, again, we've seen that a number of times. That's the right to certainly apply for that and then run it.
So we need to, if we say we kind of preliminary approve it, or send it to the P&Z and get their recommendation is what we probably should do.
No, she would need to go through the same process as everyone else that she's already been through before. Is send out the letters with 2 weeks advance notice to change, because this is essentially something different than she got approved for just a residential structure.
Then who knows, whenever she goes, if she wants to come back if it all falls together for you, if she wants to come back for bed and breakfast.
She's got the bed and breakfast, so she's got it. So if she's,
it's about to expire.
If it expires, when will it expire?
1 year is basically what we get.
Lisa said it's coming up, it's about to expire.
Then you would just reapply for it, and again, if you got it before, unless something fundamentally changed.
But if we're going to, who knows, if we're reviewing the LDR and making amendments here in the next 6-8 months, bed and breakfast may be included in that table next go round.
Right.
Exactly, maybe a permissible use, instead of a special exception. Yeah. Because that's one of the things that we talked about. We have a lot of special exception stuff. Again, depending on the will of the board or the commission.
But I do have the application from the first one. Do you have? And it just says to reside right there on top. To reside at my bed and breakfast. So it was essentially one structure. People are going to be staying in the home, where she lived. She was gonna live in the bed and breakfast.
It was described like what we proved earlier for that commercial building.
Right.
With a residence on the
Yep.
side.
It was initially supposed to be that way, but as I said, I don't, feasibly, I can't do it financially by building it, the whole thing commercially.
Ms. Cuddy, how many lots do you have?
I have 3 lots.
3 lots, yeah. So, it's got room.
And there's a house right next door that someone resides in.
But what I think Ms. Cuddy's telling us is she wants to build a home, and she wants a residential use in commercial, which again, we've seen a lot of. Needs to get on the P&Z, have them give a recommendation, and you all grant or.
That's what I'm understanding.
Right, and I've talked with Ms. Cuddy several times, and the architect. And the only way I could approve the building plans is if they come across my desk as a commercial building.
I understand.
So because that's what you approved.
That's correct.
Otherwise, we start the process over again.
Correct.
So we would refer you then to the go through the P&Z procedure. Sorry. But, you know, it should work out.
Which if you can get the notices sent out tomorrow, you could be on the October 18th agenda. And then the November commission agenda. So you could actually pull a building permit for your residential if you got approved the day after the November commission meeting. And I understand you already have a lot of your stuff already done, so it's just gonna put you back a couple more weeks.
Okay.
If you get approved.
If you get approved, right. I can't speak for the board, but that would be the process.
Okay.
Okay? It has to be done.
And it needs to be, it can't, this letter here, it has to be the letter that we send out to everybody. So the letter you sent out the first time. This letter, because we did get.
I copied the last letter that you had me write last year.
We can send her an example.
I can send it back to you
Great,
again.
thank you.
I can send it back to you again. I still have the same one that you used, I'll just change the dates. Because we did get a letter back from Steve Watkins, replying to this letter and this request.
Okay, so no action on this one, and we're just going to refer you to the P&Z, and we're having a meeting on October the 18th. Don't know what time.
Right, but tomorrow would be the deadline to get your notices out, because you have to get them out 2 weeks in advance.
Okay.
I'll send that to you first thing in the morning.
You gonna need official motion on that?
No, because it's the process anyway.
Well, I was just seeing it by the agenda item there, so.
All right, then. Good luck to you, Ms. Cuddy. Okay. Old business. Item 1, discussion of possible action concerning debt collection of what is owed by Dr. Grantham. And I'll ask Mr. Hartman to speak on this.
Sure. I don't have a lot to add beyond my report earlier. Meaning, we were following the process outlined in the last meeting. I can repeat myself, when we filed the lawsuit on September 20th. Mr. Grantham was served on September 25th. He needs to respond by October 15th. We've had 2 letters that were not legal responses, but responses. One from Mr. Nobles, providing some explanation in really his position on behalf of Dr. Nobles, and then, Dr. Grantham, and then a letter from Dr. Grantham. And the only additional thing, actually, in my incoming calls, I got a call from Mr. Nobles at some point that later on this afternoon. I haven't talked to him, but I pretty much don't intend to talk to him, and if I do, he emailed the prior letter. What I'll probably do is email him back and just advise him that I need to deal with an attorney representing, or I can deal directly with Dr. Grantham, or his attorney. He's the one, he's the defendant, not Mark Nobles. So that case is just proceeding in county court, Franklin County.
Yeah.
anybody have any questions, they can certainly call me, but it's unfolding right now.
Is there any discussion or questions to Mr. Hartman regarding this case? Okay. And then you're not communicating then with Mr. Millender because
No.
Okay, because I understand, and I asked specifically that he has waived all of his rights whenever we sign that settlement. That's what I understand.
The settlement agreement speaks for itself as far as the terms of it, but yeah, that's not.
And this item, because I've looked back at some things, seen some checks, and this is similar to the equipment VIN number, serial number. I want going forward on hangar payments. Hangar payments should be in check or credit. No cash and no credit in lieu of service. That credit in lieu of service is out of compliance. And the check payments, they need to have the hangar number or hangar letter. There's hangar numbers out there, there's hangar letters. That needs to be in the little memo portion. No checks, or if we start accepting credit card payments in the future, that hangar number needs to be on there. We need to be able to look, if we're looking back at what's happened or have some accounting problem, we need to know what hangar the rent was being paid on, and not, and it's just a simple little thing. You can put hangar A, hangar B, 2, 3, whatever the number, whatever it is, put it on there. No more accepting check payments without identification of what is being paid for. And I think a receipt from the city of Carrabelle needs to be given whenever somebody comes in and pays rent, whether it's on a hangar or it's a Mark Marine or Lulu's or whoever. They need a receipt, and that receipt needs to have a copy that's retained in the city of Carrabelle documents, their records. That receipt needs to have the date, the name of the person, the amount paid, the check number or the credit card, the hangar number or hangar letter, or if the address, if it's Lulu's or if it's the Carrabelle Industrial Building. We need to, have some identification on rent payments going forward. And I'm sure that's going on most of these items that I named, but when I look back at some of the check payments that we've received for hangars, identification is not there, and it really should be, to protect the customer and the city. Is that all right?
That probably needs to be included on their lease, so that they're made aware of it, because we're really not supposed to be filling in their checks for
To ask them, no, when they write the check.
Right,
ask
but if
them-
they mail it in, then we have.
Then it's too late.
Right.
Yeah, can that be done? Ask them to write their hangar number when they,
I think Keisha's right. If everybody's got a lease out there, that's.
We can send out an email.
We can send out something to them,
Your memo
or
or something.
But,
That's
right.
what I was gonna add. They know if they signed an official lease, I think that's one of the largest issues. If they have an official lease on file, and yes, because we can't dictate, like Keisha said, if you get a check and it doesn't have anything on it but the amount, who it's filled out to,
You can't.
You better not write on that check.
yeah, I agree with that, but if they're here writing it, we need to get the information and get them a receipt so that they can have a record.
And then as far as not accepting cash payments, that's a Dan question. I don't know.
Well, their council check is a receipt that they will get back.
Yeah, I don't know that we do.
I don't know.
Yeah, that is a good point.
Well, I think it's just my opinion now, while Dan's thinking, I see his eyes doing.
Yeah, they're all going.
Anyway,
I mean,
if they're gonna give, anybody's gonna give you cash,
Yeah.
give a receipt. I mean,
Right.
you gotta have.
And we
paper
definitely
trail or
do. We have
something.
a carbon
Yeah.
copy receipt book.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
But, we really need some better, when I look back at, especially, this issue, it's a lot of things are not recorded in it. We need to have some better record keeping on it. And I know it's difficult and we have a skeleton crew, but, if we can start doing what we need to do so that we don't get in a mix-up going forward. that's all right. Do y'all have any other comments on this topic tonight?
The only comment I'll finalize with is I agree, we need to have accountability, but we also don't want to overlabor things. We're learning from some of the errors that's made in the past, and we correct those, but not labor too.
Yes, I agree. We've got a skeleton crew.
Yes.
Even when we have a full crew, it's a skeleton crew. So, all right, then we'll move on to the next item. So there's no action on this one, and we'll move on to the next item. Item number 2 under old business, discussion of possible action concerning the cell tower lease of the spray field there in the Lanark area.
Again, obviously the commission talked generally about this, the appetite for it. I forwarded these comments, just in my marked up copy here, to the lady who was here at the last meeting. She's grinding through them, I think, and coming back with certain comments. I know the mayor had comments. Anybody who has them and concerns, anything else, just let's try to centralize everything. And we'll kind of go through them all at once. That way we're not doing a piecemeal. The other piece of this is, I'm not saying this is the case, because I know we're entertaining this lease or an option lease. But if we ever decide we don't want to do this, obviously then we'll pull the plug sooner rather than later. But right now we're exploring.
I would, from my point of view, I would like to continue to explore the opportunity of possibly renting or leasing. I've given Dan some of my verbal comments because that agreement, and I think I made this statement to the lady when she was here last time, it's too detailed, it's too intense, there's information in there that does not pertain to us. Mortgagee and all kind of stuff, and there's things, and I expressed to Dan, I guess, the bottom line, my feeling on it, a simple lease, and Dan's covering a lot of those bases, and I'm still interested in it, but not with a lease like that.
No, it's, I feel like the 90 years is too long.
Yes,
We can't predict what's gonna happen.
That's correct.
50 years scared. So, did you mention
Just
that?
just to be aware, what I did was I cut it back to 9 additional 5-year terms, so 50 years. So initial term of 5, 9 additional 5-year terms. The reason that they want a long-term lease is they're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars.
That's correct.
And so there's a lifespan of their equipment and everything. I'm not a cell tower guy, but most of the lifespan of that type of equipment, from my engineering days, is 50 years, 40 years, 50 years. So we're not, they haven't commented back on that yet, but we'll see.
But they talk in there that they can abandon it,
Yep.
And no, I would not, 50 years, whatever, 90, no, not, so if they're gonna make that investment, then they think they can go off and abandon it, and,
Well, then it's ours.
Yeah, but what's it gonna be in 90 years? What are you gonna have?
Surrounding area.
Yeah.
I don't go with that.
Old City Hall.
Yeah, this surrounding area.
Stand around. Just because it's 90 years old doesn't make it worthless. Okay?
Right. We don't know.
Wine.
Whose house is it gonna fall on?
Hopefully no one out there. That's the new lots on the street.
Okay. All right, it's almost 7:30. Okay, is there any other items, Dan? Do I need to send you my?
Please.
Okay, I didn't do that. I didn't realize I needed to send you my comments, but I will. And y'all please send Mr. Hartman your comments on the cell tower issue. So is there any other comments on this one? So there's no action on item 2 under old business. Do we have anything else for the good of the public? All right, I'm going to call to adjourn. Yes. Okay. Yes, ma'am. have Ms. Dot Bliss from
Lanark, yes. Back when we had the water and sewage place, when they moved out and moved the trailer, they gave Lanark Village the trailer and supposedly a 10-year lease on that. And we were to take care of the yard, that whole area there. Is that Warren Street part of that 5 lots that you were talking about?
I don't think it's in that fenced-in area. I think it's where the trailer's at.
Yeah. But that
Next to the parking lot.
Yep, I don't know anything about all that.
We keep the power up there and we keep the grass and everything cut but I haven't seen a lease on it and it's getting close to time for renewal or whatever. But that was one of the things that Mr. Ness, I believe it was, at that time.
Do you know about that? You said yes.
I don't know about the lease,
Oh, okay.
but I know about the area that they keep,
Yeah, I know.
the Lanark Village Association.
We were
maintains.
getting ready to build a outside restroom and a restroom and a kitchen area, so we could lease out or rent out the park when they had it. That was when we were working at Jeansville Park.
Does somebody know about the lease or have a copy? Do
I
they
have to
pay
look
rent?
into it.
Y'all pay rent on that or what?
We haven't, when the papers were done, I never got a copy of it. And I said, well,
Inside the
it's in
fenced-in area?
No, it's not fenced in. The fenced in
property
is
you're
the
talking
old
about is the fenced-in.
dog yard, they call it now.
That's
where
correct.
the old building is.
I know what she's talking about.
Yeah, and then
But
there's
ours
a,
was from the walkway back to that little,
like there's
beauty
a
shop.
and a temporary power pole there. There's a
No,
power
it's a
pole
power
there.
pole there.
Yeah.
We run the water system on Jeansville Park and the water from that trailer pump.
So I think it's this property right here.
It's facing, yeah.
I think it's that property right there. That. Here's Chillis Hall right here.
I think
Straight
so.
across.
Yes, it's that area there, because there's a power pole there and the septic tank is right here.
That's correct. I know
I
property.
mean, the area where the water thing is still there.
And so where do you all want to renew the lease, Ms.
Yes,
Scott?
we would.
Okay.
I didn't want you to sell that.
I don't think it was included in the surplus property.
Yeah, I had that.
Oh, you had it?
It's included on that map that I received.
I didn't know that it was leased. I didn't know, that property.
I'll have to look
Well,
into
they,
it.
they gave it to us and we sold the trailer and we're holding the money to build that little area there where we.
So was it deeded to you or leased?
It was leased, because we didn't have the dog run and all that stuff.
Y'all interested in buying it?
No.
Thank you, we appreciate it. Well, so you want to try to us?
I knew the answer to that for you.
We're at the money.
I said, everybody get a price. For the right price, we. Okay. Yes. All right. We'll call for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, we have that by Commissioner Millender and by Commissioner Mathis, second. Any discussion? All right, very good, it's 8:30. All in favor? Any opposed? And that motion carries.
Good night.